The night silence began. The city was burning cold. From the balcony of the 23rd floor, the skyline shimmered like it belonged to a different universe, one that did not smell faintly of powder and betrayal. The wind carried the distant hum of traffic and something colder, something sharper, right. Wine stood with her arms folded lightly across her chest, watching the city lights flicker below, behind her. Inside the vast penthouse suite that overlooked half the city, laughter echoed, her husband's laughter. It used to be her favorite sound, now it felt like a blade sliding between her ribs. Inside, the marble floors gleamed under chandelier light. Expensive art pieces hung like trophies on charcoal grey walls. Security cameras blinked slightly in corners, and guards stood outside the double doors, the shadows visible under the crack. This was the empire of Jungkook. Feared mafia kingpin, ruthless, negotiating, untouchable, and utterly blind. Wine? His voice called from inside. Come here, you need to see this. She didn't move. Instead, she inhaled deeply, letting the cold air sting her lungs. Inside, Ria's voice chimed in bright, cheerful, effortless. Oh my god, Chinga, you still remember that? You were such an idiot back then. Another burst of laughter. Wine closed her eyes. Ria. The girl best friend, the sister-like presence, the woman who had known him before Wine ever did, the woman who tonight had taken her seat. It was supposed to be their anniversary dinner, 3 years of marriage, 3 years of loving a man whose world ran red and black, 3 years of being the calm inside his chaos. Jungkook had promised he would be home early. He had promised he would cancel every meeting. He had promised. Instead, she had sat alone at a candlelight table for 40 minutes while the pasta went cold and the wine lost spread. Then he had arrived, not alone. Wine, he said casually, loosening his cufflinks. You remember Ria, right? She is back in the city, as if she could forget. Ria had smiled sweetly. I insisted on seeing him, didn't realize it was a special night. Jungkook had laughed. It's fine, we can celebrate any day. Any day, but not apparently, not today. Ria had sat between us. Between us. She had talked about their childhood, about the time Jungkook had gotten into a street fight for her, about how he used to skip school to protect her from bullies, about how no one understood him like she did. Every sentence was a reminder, you came later, you don't know him like I do. And Jungkook had listened with soft eyes and that rare, unguarded smile that he only wore around very few people. Wine had smiled too. Politely, gracefully, perfect mafia queen. Until Ria's phone rang, she had frowned at the screen. It's him again. Jungkook's posture had changed instantly. Is he bothering you? It's nothing, Ria had murmured, biting her lip. He just won't stop. I think he followed me today. Jungkook had stood so abruptly, his chair scraped loudly across the floor. Give me his number. Wine had stared at him. He hadn't reacted that fiercely when threats came toward her. But for Ria, his eyes had darkened like a storm. Jungkook, Wine had said softly, we were about to cut the cake. 2 minutes. He had replied distractedly, already walking away with Ria. 2 minutes had become 30. She had watched from the table as he stood near the entrance. Voice low, dangerous, promising consequences to whoever dared to disturb his people. His people. Ria had clung to his arm, and the candle between Wine's finger and burned all the way down. Now, hours later, she was still standing on the balcony. Behind her, Jungkook walked Ria to the door. I'll send 2 men with you, he insisted. That's overkill. I don't care. You have always been dramatic, he chuckled, and you have always needed saving. Something inside Wine snapped quietly. She stepped inside just as Ria turned. Oh, Wine, she said warmly. I didn't get to say it properly. Happy anniversary. The words felt hollow. Thank you, she replied evenly. Ria hugged Jungkook tightly, too tightly. Then she was gone. The door shut. Silence. Jungkook turned toward his wine with a tired smile. Finally, you wouldn't believe the mess she is in. Wine walked past him without a word. Wine? No response. She picked up the untouched cake from the dining table and carried it to the kitchen. Are you mad? She, he asked, following her. She opened the refrigerator and placed the cake inside carefully. Wine? Still nothing. He frowned. Talk to me. She closed the refrigerator door softly, looked at him, and then walked away. Jungkook had never feared police, never feared rival gangs, never feared the police. But he feared this, her silence. The first night he assumed she didn't have time. The second day he tried again. Breakfast? He asked that morning, sitting across from her. She poured tea into her cup without meeting his eyes. I will be late tonight, meeting. No response. He watched her carefully. Did I do something? She placed the teapot down, picked her up the phone, left the room. Jungkook stared at the empty chair, confusion twisted into irritation. That evening he returned early. Ria had texted him twice about some issue with her car, but he ignored it. When he entered the bedroom, Vine was brushing her hair. You're still upset, he said quietly. She placed the brush down, walked to her side of the bed, lay down, turned away. Wine? His voice hardened slightly. This is childish. Her shoulders stiffened, but she said nothing. That was worse. By the third day, the pandas felt colder. Staff whispered. Guards avoided eye contact. Jungkook was used to commanding fear, not being surrounded by unspoken tension. He cornered her in the kitchen. Enough, he said firmly. Explain. She looked at him calmly, then looked past him and continued reading her book. He grabbed the book gently but insistently. Her eyes flashed for a second, hurt, not anger. That flicker unsettled him more than shouting could have. Was it about dinner? He demanded silence. About Ria, her jaw tightened. Ah, finally, he exhaled sharply. Mine, she's like family. Still nothing. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. You know what my life is. People need me. Her fingers curled slightly into the fabric of the couch. He leaned closer. You're my wife. You should understand. And that was the final fracture. She stood up slowly, looked at him with eyes that had once melted at his touch, and walked away. That night he didn't sleep. He watched her from across the room as she lay still. Facing the window, the distance between them felt wider than the city below. He replayed the dinner in his head, the way she had been quiet, the way she had looked at the candle, the way she had tried to cut the cake before he stood up. A memory surfaced. 2 years ago, he had been shot during a warehouse ambush. Three blood everywhere. He remembered collapsing. And he remembered waking up in a private hospital room with her hand gripping his. She hadn't left for 36 hours, hadn't eaten, hadn't slept. She had chosen him over everything, always. When rival gangs threatened her, she never complained. When he missed his birthday, she forgave him. When rumors spread about his close bond with Ria, she trusted him. What had he done? He had chosen to comfort another woman on their anniversary publicly without ever noticing the crack in his wife's heart. The realization hit slowly, like dawn creeping into darkness. The fourth day he found her in the garden terrace. She was kneeling her near the jasmine plant she loved. He approached quietly. Wine? No reply. He knelt beside her. She shifted slightly away. That hurt more than any bullet ever did. I messed up, he said finally. Her hands passed. He swallowed his pride. I didn't think. She assumed, tending to the plants. I have known Ria since we were kids. He continued. My instinct is to protect her. It doesn't mean I love you less. No reaction. Frustration flared again. Say something. She stood up, looked at him, and for the first time since that night, she spoke. Her voice was soft. Do you even realize what you did? He blinked. It was our anniversary. I know. You didn't just bring her along, you made me feel invisible. He opened his mouth, but she continued. You left me sitting there. You stood for her like I wasn't even present, like my place could be replaced. That's not true. It felt true. Those three words shattered him. It felt like, she whispered. I was second. Jungkook stared at her as if she had slapped him. Second. His wife. Second. He stepped closer. You're not second. But you made me feel like I am. The trauma in her voice broke through his defense. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't accusing, she was hurt, and he had cursed it. I never meant to, he said more softly now, but you did. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't empty, it was heavy with truth. That evening Ria called again. Jungkook looked at the screen, then at his wife, who was quietly arranging flowers in a vase. He declined the call. Ria called again. He switched the phone off. Why noticed? But she said nothing. Late that night, he moved closer in her bed, carefully as if approaching something fragile. I'm sorry, he whispered into the darkness. She didn't respond. But she didn't move away either. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was in rejection, and for the first time in 4 days, he allowed himself to hope because the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting. And John Jingo, king of the underworld, master of power, feared by any, finally understood something terrifying. He could control a city, he could command loyalty. Silence did not leave their home, it settled deeper, it became routine, and the routine was far more dangerous than anger. The next morning, the city woke up under the grey clouds. Rain streaked against the penthouse windows, blurring the skyline into a watercolor of steel and shadow. Inside, the air felt thicker than usual. Jungkook watched his wife from across the dining table. She moved with quiet precision, placing toast in her plate, stirring her coffee, adjusting the napkin on her table. Everything controlled, everything composed. Everything distant. 3 days ago, she would have leaned across the table and stolen fruit from his planned press to irritate him. Now she didn't even look up. He tried again. You have a meeting with the charity board today, right? A simple question, neutral. She nodded once. No words. His jaw tightened slightly. I will have Jimin drive you. She sipped her coffee. I will go myself. It wasn't defiance, it wasn't cold, it was independence, and for some reason that unsettled him more than if she had shouted. You don't have to, he said. I want to. Her tone wasn't sharp, it was detached. That detachment felt like ice creeping under his sun. Later that afternoon, inside his office at the lower floors of the building, Jungkook sat behind his heavy oak desk. His men stood around him discussing shipments, territories, and negotiations. But he wasn't listening, not fully. His phone buzzed. Ria. He stared at the name one of his men noticed. Boss. Jungkook declined the call without comment. The room went silent for a brief second. That didn't go unnoticed. Ria had always had easy access to him. Everyone knew that. His right-handed man, Jimin, cleared his throat. Everything all right, man? Jungkook leaned back in his chair, handled the Western dog issue. I don't want delays. Jimin hesitated. And Ria? The question was casual, but the implication wasn't. Jungkook's gaze turned cold. What about her? She has been asking for more extra security lately. Jungkook paused. For a split second, instinct flared again. Protect, respond, prioritize. Then an image surfaced in his mind, wine sitting alone at a candlelight table, the melted wax, the untouchable cake. He stood up abruptly. She will get standard protection, he said evenly. No more, no less. Jimin nodded slowly. A message had been delivered. Meanwhile, across the city, Vine stepped into a quiet art gallery she had founded months ago. This was her world, white walls, soft classical music, sunlight filtering through high windows, no threads, no shadows. She walked past the canvases slowly, running her fingers over a frame. The artist approached her with gratitude, speaking animatedly about an upcoming exhibition. Vine smiled warmly. She was good at this, good at building beauty in the world her husband ruled through fear. But today, even here, something felt hollow. Her phone buzzed. Ria, Vine stared at the screen. For a moment, she considered ignoring it, and then she answered, "Hello?" Oh, Ria's voice sounded surprised. I thought Jungkook would pick up. Vine's fingers tightened around her phone. He's busy. A buzz. Well, I was hoping to talk to him. It was about the guy again. Vine inhaled slowly. Then you should speak to him. Ria hesitated. Are you upset with me? There it was, the question wrapped in innocence. I don't think this is something to discuss over the phone, she replied calmly. Oh, Ria laughed lightly. I hope I didn't ruin your anniversary. I didn't know. Vine closed her eyes briefly. You didn't know, she repeated. I swear if I did, I would have never insisted. Vine's voice remained steady. Good. There was silence on the other hand. Then Ria said softly, You know he will always come if I call, right? That's just how he is. The words were gentle, but the meaning was sharp. Vine's heart gave a painful thud. Yes, she replied, I know exactly how he is. She ended the call. That evening, Jungkook came home earlier than usual. He found her in the living room arranging fresh lilies. He watched her for a long moment. You spoke to Ria today? It wasn't a question. She didn't deny it. She called. What did she say? She needed you. A muscle in his jaw flexed. And I told her to call you. He stepped closer. You could have told me. You were busy. The same words he had used that night. He noticed Annette's tongue. I turned off my phone, he admitted quietly. Her hands pursed mid-air. She looked at him for the first time that day. You're dead? Yes. For how long? Long enough. There was something unspoken in that exchange, a shift, small but real. Still the hurt hadn't left her eyes. Vine, he said carefully, you're not competing with her. She tilted her head slightly. It didn't feel like that. He exhaled slowly. Ria has history with me, that's all. Understand? He stepped closer. And my future. She held his gaze. Then I'd like it. The quiet strength in her voice hit harder than anger ever could. The following week tested him. Ria showed up at his office unannounced. She walked in confidently, as if she had always done, ignoring that startled look of his man. Jungkook, she called, pushing open his office door. He looked up from his paperwork. What are you doing here? She blinked. I couldn't reach you. He leaned back in his chair. That's intentional. She froze. Intentional? I'm married, Ria. The words were calm but firm. So? She laughed nervously. Since when did that stop us from talking? He didn't smile. That night, he said quietly, I made a mistake. What mistake? Her expression faltered. I prioritized you over my wife. She stared at him as if he had spoken another language. I didn't think she would mind. She did. Ria's face hardened slightly. So now I'm the problem? I didn't say that, but that was what it mean. Jungkook stood up slowly. You are important to me, but not above her. The sentence hung in the air. Not above her. Ria's eyes flickered with something unreadable. You have changed, she whispered. He shook his head. No, I just realized what matters. She studied him for a long moment, then she smiled, but it wasn't the same smile anymore. Fine, she said lightly. Do what you need to. And she walked out. That night, he told Vine. He didn't hide it. She came to the office. Her fingers buzzed over the book she was reading. And I said boundaries. She looked up slowly. What kind? The kind that should have been there from the beginning. Her expression softened, just slightly, but the silence still lingered between them. It wasn't anger anymore. It was caution, like she was waiting to see if this change would last. Days turned into a week. He came home earlier, cancelled unnecessary meetings, sat beside her even when she didn't speak. Sometimes she would lean slightly into him without realizing. Sometimes her hand would rest near his. The distance was shrinking, but something fragile remained. One evening, everything shattered again. They were attending a high profile gala, politicians, businessmen, elite figures. Jungkook in a black, sharp suit, Vine in a deep maroon saree that made heads turn. He stayed close to her all night, proud, protective present, until Ria walked in, alone in her silver dress. Eyes scanning the room, when she saw them, she smiled and walked straight towards Jungkook. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said. "It's a public event." He replied evenly. She glanced at Vine. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," she responded calmly. Then a man approached Ria, gripping her wrist too tightly. "There you are," he snapped. The same man from before, the one who wouldn't leave her alone. Instinct took over. Jungkook stepped forward immediately. He pulled the man away roughly. "Do not touch her." The room stilled, tension crackled. Ria clung to his arm instinctively, and for a split painful second, Vine saw it again. The same scene, her husband standing in front of another woman, protecting her, fury darkening his eyes. She didn't wait to see what happened next. She turned and walked out of the gala. Jungkook didn't notice immediately. He was too busy threatening the man who into backing off. Security dragged the intruder away. Ria exhaled shakily. "Thank you." He looked down at her, then instinctively scanned the room. Wine wasn't there. His stomach dropped. He moved through the crowd quickly outside. He found her standing near the fountain staring at the water. Rain had started again. Droplets clung to her hair. "Wine," he said carefully. She didn't turn around. "I handled it." He was hurting her. Silence. He stepped closer. "You think I would let any that happen to anyone?" She turned then, eyes shining not with tears but with something heavier. "I don't want to be anyone." The words hit him like a blow. "I want to be first." Her voice cracked for the first time. "I don't want to watch you choose someone else every time there's a crisis." He froze. "It's instant. I'm sorry," he said weakly. "Then retain it." Her words were sharp now. "You're not a teenager protecting your best friend anymore. You're a husband." The truth cut deep. "You didn't ever look to see if I was okay," she continued softly. "You just reacted because she was strong, because she could handle herself, because he trusted her. But trust didn't mean neglect." "I thought you understand," he murmured. "I do," she whispered, "but understanding doesn't erase hurt." The rain fell harder now. He reached for her. She stepped back, not completely, not enough. "You don't lose me in one big mistake," she said quietly. "You lost me in small, repeated ones." And that terrified him. Because for the first time since their marriage began, Jeon Jungkook realized something he had never feared before. She wasn't angry anymore. She was tired, and tired hearts don't fight. They leave. And if he didn't fix this, he wouldn't just lose her voice, he would lose her entirely. Tired hearts don't scream, they don't break in plates, they don't threaten to leave, they simply start preparing for it. The days after the gala were different, not tense, not loud, not even cold, just distant. Jungkook no longer waited for him at the dinner. If he came home late, the food was covered and kept aside. If he asked about her day, he answered politely. If he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away, but she didn't hold it either. Jungkook had faced assassination attempts with steadier nerves. This slow unraveling, it terrified him. One evening, he returned home earlier than usual. He wanted to surprise her, maybe cook dinner, maybe try. The penthouse was unusually quiet. He walked in the bedroom, her wardrobe doors were open. His suitcase lay on the bed, half filled. His heart stopped. Wine? She emerged from the dressing room, holding a stack of neatly folded clothes. When she saw him, she didn't look guilty. She looked calm. What is this? His voice was dangerously low. I'm going to stay at the lake house for a few days. The lake house, their private property outside the city, peaceful, isolated, safe. You didn't tell me. You didn't ask. The words were not meant to hurt, but they did. He stepped forward. Is this about the gala? It's about everything. He swallowed. You are leaving for a while. His chest felt tight. You can't just walk out. She looked at him steadily. I'm not walking out of the marriage. I'm stepping away from the heart. He ran a frustrated hand through his hair. So instead of talking, you run. Her eyes flashed faintly. I have been talking. You started to listen too late. Silence. The suitcase zipper sounded too loud in the room. When will you be back? He asked quietly. I don't know. That answer hit harder than a gunshot. He didn't stop her. He wanted to. Every instant screamed to lock the doors, to command her to stay, to remind her who he was. But love isn't possession. And he was finally learning that. So he watched as she walked out with dignity, watched as the elevator doors closed, watched as his words felt emptier than it ever had. The penthouse felt suffocating without her. No jasmine scent, no soft music in the evenings, no quiet presence grounding him. His men noticed the change immediately. Jungkook was sharper, harsher, more volatile. A shipment delay ended with someone bleeding. A minor disagreement turned into a handbraking. Jimin approached him cautiously one afternoon. Jungkook, is everything okay? Jungkook didn't look up from his desk. Define okay. Wine hasn't been around. Jungkook pen snapped in his hand. Mind your business. Jimin raised both hands. Just saying you have been different. Jungkook leaned back slowly. Different. Yes, because the only person who kept his darkness in check wasn't there. Meanwhile, at the lake house, Wine found something she hadn't felt in weeks. Silence that didn't hurt. The house overlooked a quiet stretch of water framed by trees and sky. Mornings were soft and golden, evenings smelled like earth. Untrained, she woke up without tension in her chest. She drank tea on the porch. She painted again, something she hadn't done in months. But pace didn't erase longing. That night she still reached for the other side of the bed instinctively. Still checked her phone, still wondered if he had eaten, still loved him. That was the problem. If she didn't love him, leaving would be easy. But she did, and she refused to be second in the life of the man she chose. 3 days passed, no calls from Jungkook, just one message. Are you safe? She replied. Yes. Another day passed, then another. On the sixth night, her phone rang. Jungkook. She stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. Yes. His voice sounded rough. I'm outside. Her breath caught. What? You shouldn't be here. Too late, darling. She walked into the front window, and there he was, leaning against his black car, looking exhausted, not like a mafia king, like a husband who hadn't slept.